What's up, YouTube? This is Pncollector here. For those of you going to YCS Providence in Rhode Island, I just want to kind of give you guys a quick look at the new fairy deck that I hadn't played within this past week, and kind of if I was to go to the YCS, this is what I would be playing. So far, I know this deck has gotten a lot of hype so far, and I know because of the backup behind Christia and her price tag going even higher. I kind of wanted to give my take on it and kind of show you what I would generally play with it, and kind of give you some discussion about my thoughts on the deck right now, and how, as of right now, it's strong. Yes, it's not the best as it can be, and it will only get better. But for the most part, though, I do feel to be a top contender for the event. So let me go ahead and go straight into the deck list, and so you guys can kind of get an idea on it. Alright, first off, the deck plays 2 Christias, 3 Master Hyperions, 3 Agent the Mystery Earth, 3 Venus, 3 Mystical Shine Ball, 3 Herald of Orange Light, 1 Jupiter, 1 Honest, 1 Hecatrice, 2 Valhallas, 3 Pot of Dualities, 2 Mystical Space Typhoons, Giant Trunade, Monster Reborn, Dark Hole, Book of Moon. Plays 2 Warnings, Solemn Judgment, Torrential Tribute, 2 Seven Tools, 2 Dimensional Prisons, and 1 Mirror Force. Okay, on to the extra deck. It plays a Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, Armory Arm, Ally of Justice Catastor, Magical Android, Flame Value Rayquazas. This can also be a Gaia Knight Force of the Earth. It's your preference. I just find myself that if I'm going to make any level 6 in this deck, I'd usually make Brownac, but for the most part, though, this is in case you play against like plant matchups or like tokens that are kind of just floating up in the air. This actually really helps for that matchup. Brownac, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, Ancient Sacred Wyvern, Ancient Fairy Dragon, Black Rose Dragon, Scrap Archfiend, Stardust Dragon, Scrap Dragon, Mistworm, Trishula, and Ally of Justice Decisive Arms. Okay, now on to the main idea of the whole purpose of this deck, guys. Thanks to Master Hyperion being in the game for this deck, it allows the deck to have a light version of a mini Dark Arm. Whereas being able to pop a card and gain advantage off using any of the agent monsters really does help with the deck a lot. Especially with the inclusion of Christia being able to have her effect go off even more thanks to all the new support that they get. With Earth in the game now, it allows a tuner for the fairy types, and it also allows you to search out for any of the agents like Venus and even Jupiter in this case. Now, triple Venus and triple Shine Ball are more or less the heart of the deck. By using Earth, Venus, Shine Ball, it allows you to set up synchro plays and future sets up with Hyperion and even Christia. You could have a point where you summon an Earth, search out Venus, and if you can protect your Earth with any of your various cards, trap cards, or even the Honest in your hand or Book of Moon, you're able to support that card and then drop Venus on the following turn with 3 Shine Balls. This allows you to make several synchros from 5, 7, 9, and allows you to make big plays, especially if you have the Hyperion in hand or especially the Christia, because you equivalent to the 4 fairies needed to be able to drop either of the 2 or just to push with Hyperion. A big thing that a lot of people question is whether the use of Herald of Orange Light. In my opinion, Herald of Orange Light, I mean, the fact that it's not just a tuner, but it's able to stop certain monster effects, like, especially this deck has weaknesses against like Raikou, and it has trouble against cards that pretty much gain so much advantage off nothing. It poses a big problem for them, especially a deck like with Xian. This actually is one of the few outs you can also have with Xian. The deck can normally beat over Xian, but the problem is you have to make sure that your spells can all go off and your traps, just in case if you need them to. So I see this Herald of Orange to be a very strong utility-based card. It does help with work if you have dead Shine Balls in hand, or if you have any other fairies that are just not necessary, or you need those extra types just for Christia. He really does support a lot of the deck, even though he does seem a little bit of a net 1 advantage. He's still really, really good for the deck. Now, as with Jupiter, I only play 1 copy of it because I don't play Miraculous Descent. Now, I have a few thoughts on certain cards I don't like in it, and Jupiter is just a 1-of at most. If I'm playing other versions with Miraculous Descent, Sanctuary in the Sky, then I would consider more than 1, because you can use him to his fullest ability. But as of right now, he's good to have a 1-of. You remove an agent from play, he'll gain 800 points. He can actually beat over most 2,500 hitters, and that really does help a lot, especially since he'll be 26. And can help with most of the outs that you need. And also, he's good too because he mildly regulates your graveyard right now. The big note thing too is the Hecatrice Valhalla. Hecatrice is like an instant drop to search out Valhalla, and Valhalla is a key aspect in this deck now too, because with Valhalla, there's very little outs your opponent can do to any of your big type fairy monsters. If you play Valhalla, your opponent cannot warning it, and the only out that they can get rid of it with is either Mystical Space Typhoon or Royal Oppression. So the moment you have it in play and you activate it, your opponent cannot trigger warning on it, which instantly helps with this, because now if you drop either a Hyperion or Christia, you instantly can basically protect them without any fear, unless your opponent mains Bottomless Trap Holes or Dimensional Prisons. So that really helps their types drop the big monsters right away. You can even make really neat plays too with it if you combo it with like special summoning a Venus, then bringing out 3 Shine Balls, and then dropping Earth, and then even dropping Hyperion and Christia to follow through with it. So the deck does have a lot of power plays with those cards. Another thing too is that I'm playing triple pot of Duality. I know that adds to the expense of the deck, but Duality really does help this deck a lot. It's not a card you really want to play right away, but it does help to search out for when you need an answer. You don't usually always have to play it. It's more or less as if you feel like you need one extra piece to your combo puzzle with the deck, you activate it and then get what you need, and on the following turn capitalize on that. Another thing to note too about this deck is that you have the defensive, like the 7 tools and deep prisons. In mirror match, it's best to have as much destruction as possible, because it's basically who can protect the Christia or who can drop a Christia Hyperion lock. So mirror force, deep prisons, and torrential tribute all help contribute to that. And the one thing too is about the Book of Moon. There may not be any flip effect monsters in this game, in this particular deck in this game, that you'll be playing, but know that Book of Moon is a very, very, very tricky utility card in this deck. Being able to have a Christia set up where your opponent cannot summon, and then even if you haven't even drawn into a Hyperion, you can instantly book your Christia, and then reuse Christia afterwards once you drop Hyperion from your hand, and then reflip her, and then that way it creates the condition again. So Book of Moon is really good for that fact, especially certain decks that shut you down. I know some people are afraid about like Thunder King versus this deck. That's kind of one aspect of why I don't play certain key cards, because with the extra deck you're able to capitalize a lot from the different plays you can make, but there are certain weaknesses you have too, and that's one reason why it's kind of noteworthy about all the cards you get to play. As of right now, from all the synchros you can use, Ancient Fairy Dragon is a big considerate one for any player that's going to be playing this deck. If you do decide to play the Sanctuary in the Sky, it really does help you with that. It helps you get rid of rival Necro Valleys, or get into like any deck like Dragunities with field spells, and those decks have a keen weakness to this card, so if you use it and you do play Sanctuaries, more power to you for maining this. I would still main it. It's still a light, so it does get a big benefit from that. Another good contribution is Holy Ancient Sacred Wyvern, and Wyvern is really great with this deck. If you drop Earth and then protect the Earth and then drop Venus and then Hyperion, making the 3 Shine Balls plus Venus and Hyperion, if you sink into this with Hyperion and the 2 Shine Balls and you attack with everything for game, you essentially OTK within that one turn, because the Ancient Sacred Wyvern will gain all the attack difference. So if Hyperion and the Mystic Shine Balls all attack directly, you'll gain the difference and still gain enough advantage where you can knock your opponent out within 1 to 2 turns. And then another thing is why one Mistworm, one Trishula. You usually don't sink Trishula often in this deck, so you either have one or the other. Mistworm is good for the final push if there's a lot of like things that are threats in your way. Trishula is more like Salt on the Wound. You just kind of take away multiple cards away from them at once and then capitalize with Hyperion or Christia. Now the reason why the Decisive Arms is in here is because I'm expecting that if anyone goes to Rhode Island, they're going to have mirror matches, or they're just going to have to be able to deal with these decks in general. So for most part, this card really can put a lot of work in. You can make it in the deck, but it's usually comboed really well with like Monster Reborn and things like that. So just know that this could be a possible contender to be, considered in the extra deck. I mean, as of right now, there's still plenty of room for this deck, but all in all, it just depends on your thoughts and preferences on it. Now, cards that are not included in here is Sanctuary in the Sky and Zoritis, and of course the Counter Trap card. I don't decide to play these cards because, again, I have a fear towards Thunder King Ryu, and pretty much almost everyone is citing that. Sanctuary on its own does not do enough to worthy it to be mained. I do know it's a very good card, especially combined with Zoritis. You can get to what you need. It helps turn on Jupiter's and Earth's other effects, so you can search out Hyperion or Special Summon a Fairy removed from play. But then again, I feel that that's another deck of its own type, and I'm trying to preference away from that because it's more or less drawing into consistency and getting out of bad situations, because you can draw clumped hands. I mean, you already draw Shine Balls, you can already draw multiple Valhallas, multiple Hyperions, pretty much multiple of anything Venuses that may not be useful for you. So I choose not to play this version for this event in particular, because there's just too many things in the way that become a problem. And a lot of people are comparing Divine Punishment to Infernity Barrier. The difference is, though, is that you can search Infernity Barrier. You can't search out Divine Punishment. So more or less that's why I kind of stray away from that version and feel that it's best prepared for something else. Another two noteworthy cards is Cards from the Sky and Miraculous Descent. Cards from the Sky, it's a great card, but a lot of people are trying to compare it to D-Draw. Well, you cannot attack, and you cannot special summon the turn you use it. You can activate multiple copies, which is awesome. But the thing is, though, you cannot do any more with that. It actually locks you really fast from using anything, and it doesn't progress your deck as much as you want it to, because even when I played with it, there were cards I didn't even want to remove from play. But for the most part, though, I mean, it's a great card, but again, I think it's filled for its own type. Even comboed really well with Miraculous Descent, I feel that, again, it's meant for its own type of deck. It's something based around Jupiter, and you can spam triple Jupiter with Christia. That's pretty amazing either way. And again, that would have to combo really well with the Sanctuary builds, or if you decide to run Remove from Play Fairies. That's just mainly what you would have to use with it. Now, three noteworthy cards that expand the deck into a different direction. Right now, Exceeds have not came out yet, and unfortunately won't be legal, but more or less will not be here until July 12th. So you have Frozen Gentetsu, which is Gaga Gentetsu in English, and he requires two level 2 Exceeds, and basically 2 Mystical Shine Balls, and then you bring him out in defense mode, and he will gain, all your monsters will gain 200 attack for every material that's on him. Then if he would get destroyed, you could remove one of the materials underneath him to prevent his own destruction. So really that does help a lot too, because turn 1, if you drop Venus and bring out 3 Shine Balls, you can exceed 2 of the Shine Balls into him, and then you have a 2000 attack Venus for no reason. So it really helps the fact that this card will help progress the deck a little bit more, and Exceeds in general will help push this deck into a better direction. Another note